In this tutorial, I'm going to be setting up automated production of hammer torpedoes. Hammer torpedoes are powerful missiles used by Commonwealth M7Ms and M8 bombers that have extremely long range and very high damage output. This can apply to any other wares, but for this example, I'm using hammer torpedoes. So to produce them, you're going to need a factory. Now, right here, I have a hammer heavy torpedo factory that I placed, that is mine. It will cost you just over 2 million credits from the Rebels, and I'm sure other races sell them as well. And it produces hammer torpedoes, one at a time every, I don't know if this is minute or hour, but whenever that is complete. And it takes energy cells, stakes, and ore to do that. Now, it's not working right now because it is empty of all the resources. Now, to get these 3 resources, there are a few ways we can go about that. The first method is to have NPCs sell them to the station as they do to their own stations and let the galactic economy take care of it. Now, in order to do that, what you need to do is go to your station, go to the parameters. You need to give the station money. And the station will use its account to pay the NPC traders that come and drop wares off at it. So in order to do that, you need to have competitive prices. So the NPC traders need to be able to make a profit by coming to your factory rather than other factories and selling their resources. So you're going to need to set almost nearly max price for all of these wares. So our factory is now set to buy energy cells, ore, and stakes at a very high price. And NPC traders will start coming over here and selling to our factory. And once our factory has accumulated enough of all 3 of these resources, so actually the number in brackets right here, 1260 for the energy cells, 840 stakes, and 210 ore, that's how much it needs to do one production cycle. So to make this many torpedoes, to make one torpedo, it needs these 3 amounts of these resources. So once it has those resources, it will start producing torpedoes. Now, of course, buying at a high price like this is a terrible idea. It is the worst way to do it. Even though you aren't having to use any of your own ships, you do have to spend a lot of money to do it this way. And I guess if you're really desperate and you have infinite money, you can go ahead and do this. But if you have infinite money, Saturn Complex Hub is the way to go. We'll get to that later. So we're not going to do this. I'm going to set station open to race traders no, so no NPC ships are allowed to dock here. I'm going to take my money back from the factory because it's not going to be needing it. The second way to manage the resources for a factory is a LitCube Universe station agent. So a station agent is a ship that automatically buys the resources for the factory at the lowest price it can find within the station's jump range, and it will also sell the resources at the highest price it can fetch. You can turn a profit for complex hubs as well as certain factories like an ore mine. You could just have a station agent buying the energy cells and selling the ore, and it could be profitable. But let's go over how to do that. So you need a ship. It needs to have station agent software, trading system extension, and you most likely want a hyperdrive and quantum jump gate. Quantum jump gate lets the ship jump to the center of the sector rather than just the gates, allowing it to reach factories to buy things much faster and making it more efficient. You also need to set its jump drive settings like this. The fuel resupply is the distance in sectors that a ship can jump based on how much refuel it has. So this ship will automatically refuel so it can jump 50 sectors worth of distance. Whatever you do, you should set that to double the range that the station allows its own ships to jump. That is what this maximum jump setting here does. So 25, it will allow ships owned by it to jump 25 sectors away. So the station is in Patriarch's Retreat up here. If we were going down here to Patriarch's Keep, that'd be a range of 2. So I'm going to go ahead and set the ship's home base. So this is the transport we're going to use. Home base, hammer torpedo factory, trade, and station agent. And it's now owned by the station. It's going to buy these three resources at the lowest prices possible, and it's going to sell the torpedoes. Now, of course, it needs money to do this, so we have to give the station some of our own money to do this. And you can also, similar to the way I set up Universe Traders, you can set the minimum deposit. So you can set it so that the station will automatically deposit any, like, over 2 million credits that it gets in its account. So 2 million credits here. If it produces a profit above that, it will send the excess to the player. And if it produces, and if the ships need to buy anything, our station agent, it will use money from this pool. Now, of course, hammer torpedoes are not, this is not for profit. These are for personal use, so we can use the missiles in combat. For profit, you're going to want to use more profitable goods. So anyway, let's see the station agent in action. Let it go dock at the station. And it's just going to automatically, so it's recolored the ship to blue, negotiating buy stake. So it's looking for the best place in the, among all the sectors we have satellites in, for where it can buy stakes at the lowest price, and it's going to go do that. So the station agent should, and I don't recommend just sitting here and watching it like this because it does take a while. There are delays. It's best just to leave this alone and not keep an eye on it. It's just going to do its thing, and it looks like it found a good place to buy stakes, so it's undocked, it's jumping. Let's see, it's in the resistance sector, and it is heading up here. Yep, and here's a factory selling stakes for the lowest possible price because it's full. And because we have the quantum jump gate, it's most likely to get here before another ship comes and takes all the stake, and the station won't be able to sell it for a low price. So anyway, that's one way to do the station. You can make self-sufficient stations like this. I don't recommend it because this is on such a small scale and you're still paying for the resources. It's best to produce these resources ourselves. So I'm going to call the station agent back, and I'm going to cancel its command, so it's not actually doing that. I'm going to take the money out of the station. So now I'm going to cover what's known as the complex hub. Not the Saturn complex hub yet, but the vanilla complex hub. This is how you set up big manufacturing setups in vanilla. So energy cells, stakes, and ore. We can produce that ourselves. So to produce ore, you need to buy an ore mine. Ore mine L, never ever get the medium version. It just produces less for the same asteroid. Ore mine L, you can buy that at any vanilla shipyard, like Argon Prime right here. Rebel shipyard, you should see ore mine. This one doesn't sell the L version, so go find a different shipyard that does. You need to have a TL. This is my TL right here that has the ore mine in it. You just dock it with the station and buy it. You can also hire an NPC TL by contacting them on the comms, and they will also be able to deploy stations for you. So to deploy a mine, you need an asteroid. So right here on the bottom, you can see all the asteroids in the sector. We can't actually deploy a mine until we scan them. So to scan an asteroid, you need to get yourself, so this is my ship's freight bay, you need to get yourself a mineral scanner. And the mineral scanner will let any ship with it scan asteroids. So let's approach this asteroid right here. And once we get in scanning range, which is 10 kilometers, we will be able to scan it. Alright, so this asteroid right here contains ore. And if we see on the minimap, this asteroid has been scanned. Now, of course, you're going to want a fast ship to scan, and you definitely don't want to do it manually. So I'm going to call in 2 A-wings I have that have the right equipment for scanning asteroids. M5 scouts are perfect for scanning asteroids because they will automatically do it and go over the entire galaxy to do so and do it very quickly. So to scan asteroids, your M5 is going to just need Explorer Command software and a mineral scanner, and that's it. I don't recommend giving them weapons or shields or anything except engine tunings and those 2 softwares because they are going to get themselves killed most likely. So here is our transport bringing our 2 A-wings that have the scanning software on it. I'm going to find one of the A-wings, issue the command, navigation, scan asteroids, and it will just go around the entire universe scanning asteroids. Starting from the current sector, and it will just go around scanning. All right, you can see they're starting to undock from the transport, and they are off. So we should be able to see, as these two M5s go throughout the sector, they will start filling out the asteroids. So as you can see on the minimap, they found a silicon asteroid, and we can just forget about these ships now. After they finish this sector, they're going to go to other sectors and so on and so forth. Now, one note about this is if you do want to scan enemy asteroids, so Xenon sector 695 over here, this sector has millions and millions of asteroids in it. It's a very good sector for resources. In order to actually have them scan in there and not run away, you need to go to the A-Wing's command console and set Xenon to friend, and then issue the command. Otherwise, they won't scan it. And you can probably they're most likely going to die after they finish scanning that sector. However, that is what you need to do in order to make them scan in enemy territory. So anyway, now that that's taken care of, let's build the ore mine. So our TL, let's build the ore mine, and let's pick this asteroid that we just scanned, the ore. 88 is a pretty decent yield.
Asteroid.
All right, and here is our ore mine. So attached to the asteroid is our ore mining station. Now, another thing you could do in addition to ore mining is if you have a mobile mining base set up, you're most likely producing a decent amount of ore and automatically selling it. Instead of automatically selling it, you can set up a freighter ship to come and deliver it to the Hammer production facility, so you just get the ore from your mobile mining. I'm not going to go over that. The Dockware Manager and all of those features are very big subjects, so I'm probably going to cover it at a later date. Anyway, this is our ore mine. The ore mine is a factory that takes energy cells and produces ore. Now, of course, we can have another station agent here, and it can deal with the energy cells, or we could buy them from the NPC economy, or we could just manually throw in energy cells ourselves. And then this ore can be sent to the Hammer Torpedo facility. We also need those steaks. So to make steaks, we need a meat packing plant, and that needs cattle. To make cattle, we need a ranch, and that needs energy cells. So I'm going to build a ranch, and I'm also going to build the meat packing plant. So now we have all of the stations to produce the resources that the hammers need, except for the energy cells. Now, we could put a solar power plant down and produce the energy cells, but that requires crystals, and crystals require silicon, and it's definitely possible to produce everything in a self-sufficient loop. Now, all of these stations are going to need their own ships. They're going to need some way to get all the resources between them and get everything to the Hammer production facility. Now, you could set this up with Jubarbe's internal distribution network script, and you're going to need a central base in order to do that. This is how the old versions of Mayhem used to handle all of their stations. But I think that script has been discontinued, and the best way to do this from the vanilla standpoint is what's called a complex hub. A complex hub is a station, complex construction kit, that links the inventories of two stations. So if we link this ore mine and this Nerf ranch over here, it would produce, so it's going to produce a linking station called a complex hub, and it's asking us where we want to put it. So the one moving on the map is the complex hub. I'm going to put it right here. Now, in vanilla, there were these obnoxious connecting tubes going between all the complexes. You've probably seen screenshots of that. They've been removed in LitQ for framework reasons. So this complex hub it produces cattle and ore, and both of those need energy cells. And the component stations are listed here. So we can just provide energy cells to this connecting hub, and it will produce both of these. And we can link everything together in a complex hub. So let's connect the Hammer torpedoes and the meatpacking plant in another complex hub. So here is our second complex hub. It produces steaks and Hammer torpedoes. It needs ore, energy cells, and cattle. Now we're already producing cattle at the other complex hub and ore, so we can link those two complex hubs together as well. That's not it. So linking those two together. And it didn't ask me to build it this time because it just used the existing station as a complex hub. So if we look at the map, there's lines connecting all of these stations, and this is the complex hub. So the complex hub now produces hammer torpedoes, and it only takes energy cells because all the component stations produce all of the intermediate products now. It automatically produces cattle and ore, so all we have to do is give it energy cells. And of course, we can throw a solar power plant, crystal fab, silicon mine, all of that into the mix. We can also throw like 50 hammer torpedo facilities into this mix as well, and have a self-sufficient loop. So the station doesn't take any resources, it just produces torpedoes from nothing. And setting one of those up is one of the biggest accomplishments you can do in vanilla X3 Albion Prelude. And this is where the concept of a Saturn complex hub comes into play. I'm not actually going to use this system because this is a very, very rudimentary system. Yes, it's the ultimate way to set up manufacturing in vanilla. However, it's very tedious to set up each individual station, link all of them with complex hubs, make sure they're all in range so they can be linked. Like if we were to set up a mega complex that incorporated all of these asteroids all the way around the belt over here, these don't have infinite range, so we'd have to very cleverly link them up with intermediate stations all coming into one complex hub, and we had to figure that out it was quite difficult in vanilla to do that. So we're not going to set up a mega complex. We are going to do a Saturn complex hub. So what a Saturn complex hub is a station that that produces a single product for free. Now I say for free. It uses the same concept of a self-sufficient loop. So we can actually see an example of this. So in the player console, so this is LitCube's player console. To get here, you'll need to set a hotkey in the interface section of the controls menu. Saturn Complex Hub Calculator. This is a way to preview the resources you'll need to set up a Saturn Complex Hub without actually having to buy the station. So these are, unfortunately, the way LitCube was designed was it was designed so that you would be peaceful with all the races, and each race would have their own stations and technology. So you can't get all the weapons just by being friendly with one race, which is quite unfortunate. Well, anyway, the Rebels sell the Hammer Torpedo production facility. So that is what we're going to set on our Saturn Complex Hub. Sun, so this is the sun in the sector. So this sector has a sun of 150%. That just means how strong the solar power plants are going to be. The best sector is Aquila's Beacon with 500%. Solar power plants are going to go crazy there. And this is the worst sector, Lumagstrat's Legacy with 0%. It's completely dark there. So standard 150 sun. Now Saturn Complex Hub 10. Saturn Complex hubs come in sizes ranging all the way up to 400. Now the size means how many hammer torpedo facilities. So a Saturn Complex Hub 10 is the equivalent of setting up 10 hammer torpedo factories within the same self-sufficient complex. You can imagine how many stations, ore mines, cattle ranches, and energy cells, solar power plants that's all going to take. And the Saturn Complex Hub actually calculates that exact number. So let's say 20. 20 is a good amount for your very first Saturn Complex Hub. I typically do things in 50, 100, 150, 200, and 400. But 20 is a basic amount for your very first Saturn Complex Hub. So Hammer Torpedo, let's calculate. So to make 20 Hammer Torpedo factories self-sufficient, it's already calculated that we're going to need 8 crystal fabs, 20 of the hammer production facilities, 18 meatpacking plants, 18 nerf ranches, an ore mine. So the way ore mines work is they base on how the asteroid yield is. So our asteroid that we mined is yield 88. It's going to need a total yield of 100. And we can combine asteroids into a single asteroid to accomplish that, and I'll go over that in a second. It's going to need silicon mine to produce the crystals, and 7 medium solar power plants for a total of 140 million credits. And this is actually quite cheap in LitCube terms. A Saturn Complex Hub of size 200 will probably cost you over 1 billion credits, and a size 50 for lasers or something will probably cost you around 500 million. So anyway, if we were doing this the vanilla way, we would need all of these stations, and we would have to link them all together. And it would cause a massive amount of lag. The whole sector would be covered in a spider web, and all these factories would be calculating their production individually, causing even more lag. So the Saturn complex just says, hey, I need all of these as an ingredients, and we are going to just produce hammer torpedoes in batches of 20 without having all those intermediate things. So to get Saturn complex hubs, you can buy them at Saturn 3 for the Empire. Let me get the sun out of the menu. Saturn 3 for the Empire, right here. These are all the different sizes. So the size 20 is what we just did. And if you are the Rebels, you can go to Circle of Labor, and you can go to the United Space Command shipyard there. So we're going to go buy a Saturn complex hub, and we are going to set one up for 20 units of hammer production factories for hammer torpedoes. If you're actually running M7Ms in your fleet or have heavy bomber usage, all of the Star Wars LU M3 bombers like the Y-Wing can use bomber class torpedoes. So Y-Wings can actually use hammer heavy torpedoes as well with their massive range and damage. If you're actually using these in your fleet, you do want to have automated setup because the torpedoes themselves are quite expensive and you don't want to be buying them. So let's buy our Saturn complex hub 20. It's on our bulk cruiser. We'll have it come back to me. We will set it up in this sector because it has sufficient asteroid resources. Alright, our bulk cruiser is here. We will build the Saturn complex hub, and it's just like any other station. Let's just put it. Now, tip for Saturn complex hubs is you want to put them near the gates or near the center of the sector. So when you have the dockware manager on a, which again I'll cover later, the dock agents and freighters can just quickly get here without having to travel and then get out with the resources because they're going to be pulling them all to a central location. Most likely is how you're going to have your endgame set up because you're going to need these to automatically resupply MLCC ships and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, we're going to place it near the center of the sector. Our Saturn complex hub is placed. I'm going to jump to get next to it. Where is it? So this is our Saturn complex hub. It's just using one of the basic Terran station models. We're going to immediately turn race traders off because there's no reason a race trader should ever come to a Saturn complex hub. We are also going to name it. Because you're going to have many Saturn complex hubs over the course of your game, I recommend coming up with some kind of naming scheme for this. So I will call it Hammer Torpedo 20 or times 20 because it is making 20, it's size 20, making 20 of them at a time. Saturn complex hub, and then the sector name. I think that's the sector name. And then we need to go to Saturn complex hub console in the menu. We're going to pick what it's actually making. Rebel Hammer Torpedo Production Facility, install. And all right, so this is the Saturn complex hub menu. It needs, here's all the stations it needs before it can actually start running. It needs crystal fabs, hammer production facilities, and it needs 100 units of ore from asteroids and 80 units of silicon from asteroids. And if we look here, we have like 47 plus 71 is over 100. That'll work just fine. So we have plenty of asteroid resources in this sector. So we can go to a Rebel shipyard and buy all of those resources manually. So the Rebel shipyard in Legends Home sells a lot of these things. Like here's the ore mine we need and the cattle ranch. However, LitQ built a command into the game, so all we have to do is tell our bulk cruiser to go to trade, and I don't have it. Special, let's see, what is it missing? There's a command to shop Saturn complex hub, and it will go buy the stations automatically. That's the trading system extension, I should have known. Let's see, jump to sector. I'm going to take the software out of my station agent because I'm not using it anymore, and I'm going to throw it in the bulk cruiser. So I have the transporter device, so I'm going to trade with the bulk cruiser, give it my trading system extension. And then I'm going to take one from the station agent, because it doesn't need it. Alright, trade, shop Saturn Complex Hub, Hammer Torpedo. This is the name we just gave to it, and it's going to automatically do that. So let's see our bulk cruiser. Where is it? It is at Legends Home. It's headed towards the shipyard, and it's going to buy all of those stations. And it's going to cost 140 million credits for all of these stations together. So we should see our bulk cruiser once it finally gets to the station. Now, another thing you can do is important stations like this, especially the one in Uranus if you're playing as the Empire. It's way out here. You can put a jump beacon right next to it. That way, your bulk cruisers will jump to the jump beacon and not have to travel all the way from the gate, because bulk cruisers are very, very slow. And when I say bulk cruiser, I mean TL. Alright, it got to the station. It bought all of the stations at the shipyard. If we look at its cargo, it is filled with factories. Remember, setting all of these up in a regular vanilla complex will be a nightmare. So we are going to let it go dock with the Saturn Complex Hub. I'm actually going to get out of this sector so it doesn't have to calculate the ship's rotation and all of that. It'll go much faster that way.
Entering system chose defeat.
And once it gets there, it will send us a message.
Incoming message.
Now for me, it's glitched. I don't know why, but it's not sending the actual message. But it's saying, hey, the ship arrived at the Saturn Complex Hub. So we go to Saturn Complex Hub console. We can do that from the TL since it's landed there, or we can go to the Saturn Complex Hub itself. And operation remove. So up here, this might trick you up if you don't remember, but you need to change it to install. And we can just click on these now, and it will install them from the ship. Now, of course, the ships don't have infinite cargo capacity, despite what you might think. So for bigger Saturn Complex hubs, they might not be able to make all the stations in one go, and you will see some of these still be red. However, you just install what you have and send the ship off on another run to get more stations, and you'll eventually get it filled up. And of course, if you want to remove, it will put them back into the ship. So you can uninstall them and take them somewhere else, or you can sell them. To sell stations, by the way, you go to the ship, you go to additional ship commands, not there, trade, not there, special. Let's see, I don't remember where it is, but there's a button somewhere to auction stations. Actually, I think it's not here because the ship doesn't have any more stations in its inventory. So anyway, we've installed all the factories. Now it's just time to install the ore and the silicon wafers. Now, the way a Saturn Complex Hub works is it just consumes asteroids out of the sector. So ore, it's going to ask you to pick an asteroid. So let's pick the 147 down here. Now this is the asteroid. Remember where that is. Let's pick that. All right, so we've installed 47 units of ore, and we need 100. So if we look in this sector now, the asteroid is gone. The one from the bottom is gone. So the Saturn Complex Hub just ate it. So let's go ahead and do that. Saturn Complex Hub console, it's going to need more asteroids. So let's use this 71 unit asteroid down here. It's installed it. So if we look back at the sector now, the formerly 71 unit asteroid is now only 18. So that's how you get your ore and silicon into the Saturn Complex Hub. Now, this isn't cheating because if you had ore mine Ls on ore asteroids with yields adding up to 100 in a regular vanilla complex hub, you would get the same amount of ore. That's how this is calculated. So let's do silicon now. This is a big asteroid. Everything's set up, so now you can hit engage. When you hit engage, the Saturn Complex Hub, if you go to info, all it's doing is it will just produce hammer torpedoes for free. So every hour and 23 minutes, you'll get 20 extra hammer torpedoes. If you're using these heavily in a fleet, you probably want a size 200 Saturn complex hub doing this, or just many small ones if you don't want to build them. If you don't want to build one big one. And some Saturn complex hubs, just due to the way they're set up, their solar power plants, internal solar power plants, will produce extra energy cells than what's actually needed, and those will spill over here. So Saturn complex hubs also can act as solar power plants that work for free, just producing excess energy cells. This one doesn't look like it's going to produce a lot of it at a time, but due to the way the math works out, some of them produce lots of extra energy cells in addition to their primary product. So there's a lot you can do with this. You can sell the energy cells. You can home base your fuel quick shuttle here. You can use these as freighter sources in your dockware manager for other factories. You can use this to supply other factories that aren't in Saturn complex hubs. And of course, the torpedoes here, you're most likely going to want to automatically collect them with dock agents and freighters, but I will cover that later. So for now, all you have is a Saturn complex hub producing 20 factories worth of hammer torpedoes with all the component stations in it, all built into one. So instead of this crazy spider web, you just have one station producing the same thing as a massive sector-sized spider web. And if we want to set up lasers or mobile mining drills, we can set up Saturn complex hubs for those as well. Quick note, for Star Wars LU 1.2.6, you can actually set up a fusion beam cannon Saturn complex hub without having to be friends with the Empire by going to Galactic Republic. These are all of the stations that are needed to build a fusion beam cannon. All right, and the final topic is the Plutarch tractor system. The Plutarch tractor system is a upgrade that lets us combine asteroids into one. So you actually buy it at Orbelt at Plutarch headquarters. Plutarch tractor system, 37 million credits, or you can buy it at Earth for the Empire. Where is it? Plutarch tractor system right here. So you put that on a TL, so our bulk freighter actually already has it. If we go down here, Plutarch tractor system, what this does is it lets us combine asteroids into a single one and move them to different sectors. So let's compact all the asteroids in this sector. So source asteroid, let's set the second one here. Target asteroid, this is where it's going to be put, the first one on the list. So you do the second one first and then the first one second on the list. And I'll go into that in a second. Now to do this, it's going to need energy cells, crystals, and thermal regulators. So a good place to get crystals is Belt of Aguilar, John Furco headquarters. And the reason is because you can dock a TL with John Furco headquarters. The same can't be said for a lot of the other places that sell crystals. You could put these on your TL by freight exchange or some other way, but it's just going to take forever. I like to have one TL that has the Plutarch tractor system just go to all the corporation headquarters and buy a massive amount of these, so it can just use the Plutarch tractor system without ever having to worry about refueling. So we need crystals. We'll buy a massive amount. In fact, we'll buy their whole stock. And Atreus headquarters in Queens Harbor has the thermal regulators, formerly known as quantum tubes. Now, of course, if you're an Imperial-only player or something, you're going to have to find other ways to get these. Like I said, unfortunately, LitCube was designed so that you would be friendly with all the races at all times. So each race would have certain resources you'd need, and you'd have to buy from all the races, which doesn't really work with some of Star Wars LU's game starts, unfortunately. So anyway, is at Atreus headquarters. Let us grab the thermal regulators. And let's go back to our Patriarch's Retreat Saturn Complex Hub. I'm going to head back there as well.
Entering system, Patriarch's Retreat.
Alright, so now we can issue the command. So General, Plutarch Tractor System. We selected our asteroids, we hit engage. So it destroyed the asteroid we set as the source, and the asteroid we set as the target has been enhanced. It's kind of hard to tell here, so I'm just going to go ahead and compact all the asteroids.
Command accepted.
Now, the reason I'm able to hit enter very fast like that
Not
is
available.
because if you do source asteroid, pick the second one, target asteroid, pick the first one, it lets you do that and just compact the whole sector. So now the entire sector only has 2 asteroids in it, one for ore, one for silicon, and they are the sum of the entire asteroid production, asteroid yield of this entire sector. Now you could put an ore mine L on an asteroid with a yield of 1,000. Please don't do that, especially in Mayhem if you're playing Mayhem, because this will just absolutely be a crazy factory. It will consume ridiculous amounts of energy cells, and it will produce ridiculous amounts of ore. If you need a ton of ore, which you do for shipbuilding much later in the game, please produce ore at a Saturn complex hub, not at a mega mine on a super asteroid. So why would I compact asteroids like this? So say we wanted to set up a Saturn complex hub in, let's see, what is a random sector? This unknown sector.
Charging at 10%.
Unknown sectors are great because they're usually very safe, very lag-free, and you don't have to worry about patrols or anything. This is a great sector for it. However, we can't put a Saturn complex hub here because there's no asteroids. So what I like to do is compact an entire sector of asteroids into 2 asteroids, and then we can use the Plutarch tractor system to relocate source asteroid. Let's take our silicon asteroid, target position. Let's find me. Unknown sector. Now it's going to have you pick a position. You do this the same way as stations using the numpad arrow keys. It doesn't let you make sure your position is far away from other objects as well. I've had the idea of putting an asteroid right in front of the gate to destroy enemy ships, but it doesn't let you do that. So hit engage. Our asteroid just popped up, so our silicon asteroid is now in unknown sector. And let's get the other one now. General, tractor system, source asteroid. And let's put it in unknown sector. Let's put it over here. All right, so our 2 asteroids are here. So now we can set up all of our Saturn complex hubs in this secluded sector using these asteroids. And if we want to get more resources, another thing you can do is let's have this jump to the neighboring sector because I believe our scouts scanned it. Let's see. Yes, our scouts scanned this sector. So it's going to, what is that, Ronkar's Might? So we're in Ronkar's Might now. Something you can do with the Plutarch tractor system is you can compact source asteroid, or here, target asteroid. We're going to put the target asteroid as this one. So we're taking an asteroid from Ronkar's Might and we're adding it to the yield of an asteroid in our unknown sector. And it just did that. So the asteroid is gone from Ronkar's Might. And in unknown sector now, we have the added ore yields. So relocating asteroids is great. So like I said, this Xenon sector right here has a ton of asteroids. Compact them all into 2 asteroids and ship them out to wherever you need them and set up a massive Saturn complex hub sector, just full of the complex hubs. And that should be it for the Saturn complex hubs. Of course, I haven't gone over the logistics of collecting all of the wares and putting them in a central location yet, or the dock agents and dock manager. That is going to be a lot longer tutorial than this. So that should be everything you need to know to automate the wares. The NPC economy will collapse over time in a game of LitCube's universe. So like in equipment dock, all of these wares will most likely be out of stock if you've been playing for a long time. And by then, your best bet is to just set up a Saturn complex hub for whatever lasers or shields or things that you need. And it also so happens that lasers and shields produce a lot of profit. So you can sell these lasers and shields that your complex hub produces, as well as use them for your own use. So I highly recommend setting up Saturn complex hubs for that. All right, and that should be it.